red lines.
And then this. I'll see if I can pull it up. No, I don't. Connect. Or the project.
Connect. I think.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
4460.
That's it. 44. Sorry. I can't see that.
My glasses are.
You know that.
4460.
I forget an extra copy. It's a big fire. I also think that it's a big fire.
All right. Well, the red line copy of 2 copies rather of recommendations from the high school committee really just has implementation of the recommendations, and then just a couple other things that I noticed that we might want to chat about at some point to just clean up. Trying to remember how to. Okay, there we go. I forgot how to use my computer. I started with the scheduling doc and then realized that there was a little blurb on page 23 of the negotiated agreement that mentioned what is part of the high school day. So on that one pager, the only suggested change would be adding academic intervention as one of the things that occurs within the high school day. So nothing too crazy there. The scheduling doc itself has more of those changes. Hopefully I don't have any typos on the numbers, but I'm more of a words person, so please check those. Obviously updated the it says professional day, which would be the bell schedule. Okay, yes, making sure I have the right 7:40 to 2:40. That would be the times of the high school day. I'm just making sure professional day. Went ahead and put the bell schedule that the high school committee recommended in there, and that would be the thing that your eyes would be really helpful on, because redlining numbers was difficult. In terms of placement for the definition of academic intervention, didn't really know where to put it, so I put it right above supervision, but placement could be someplace else. That is just the same definition that we talked about. I believe it was our last or the time before, all kind of bleeding together a little bit. I noticed when I printed it that for some reason there's like a random open space here, so ignore that. Couple no minor things I just noticed in looking at teaching a class for a 6-hour variance, it refers to wage back, so I just tagged that. And I thought there was one other thing. Yeah, that would be on page 88. It's repeated on page 89. And then I also noticed that we did have the schedule for the testing day, and that's not something that the high school committee talked about, but I would assume we would want to modify that to align with the 7:40. So I just kind of highlighted that and thought I would let the schedule masters take care of that one.
So a thought on for the replacement for wage back, and Hutch, you can tell me if you think. Lee and I were working on some language earlier too that had wage back. We just changed it to the payroll system.
That way we don't have to keep changing it.
Yes. That work.
There's a board policy that references it too.
Great.
As I remember us talking about last year, GBZEF.
That might be the one we worked on.
Is that the one you're working on?
What is that?
Paid educator coverage and absences.
Yes. Yep.
So I remember us talking about last year.
Yeah. Yep. That was
GBZEF.
Yeah.
So really the substantial changes would be the academic intervention and the bell schedule.
Advisory doesn't exist, it's struck.
Well, I wasn't sure what to do with that. I think sometimes people use those terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
academic interventions.
In some of the buildings, they actually still call, like if they split that time up, they call it advisory, especially on during.
So they had AI advisory and seminar?
No, so like at North, we have advisory is the first, how 20 minute, well, 25 minutes, and then AI 1, AI 2. So it sounds like it's just a lot of different vocabulary.
On the Thursdays, right?
On Thursdays, yeah.
Not that long.
So maybe just taking.
We can Monday, Tuesday, Friday, take it off. But
Yeah.
leave it on Thursday.
Okay,
Some of that has to do with the auditors and what they call stuff too.
per building?
What they'll
What they'll
recognize.
recognize in minutes. Yeah. They love the word seminar. That's why we have to do that. Call it something different, even though the structure is the same. That's interesting. Yeah.
Extension, it's just confusing, like,
Yeah.
my middle school could not tell you when I said, you guys know, I in the parentheses, not. And they're probably like, I don't get it, but I was like, yeah, but this, again, and middle, like you said, in elementary, you guys would just call it tier intervention, right? It just
Walk to intervention.
walk to intervention. I don't know, I just think later that's something for our committee to talk about too, because it's always been deemed that, but I'm sure it's counting for minutes and it's been approved, that language extension, extension intervention. I feel like we're doing both.
That was the seminar, and because it functions differently, for auditor minutes at the high school level, because students travel to different teachers and help and see different teachers, so it's a totally different function, because I don't think that happens at middle school.
It does.
Does
Does
a little
it?
bit.
It's CTE minutes though, and I don't know if that
Oh,
counts.
okay.
but-
Okay, because ours would be, they have a class, but then they may go see a teacher for a certain intervention, or they may go see a teacher for assistant help, so kind of, I don't know.
It's
something to
CTE
consider.
minutes that it applies to, so it's not for student contact minutes, it's different, it's for CTE minutes and that weighted funding.
So maybe just that'll help us if we need, we'll just make sure our definition, even they may look similar, we would still use that term,
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
extension.
Yeah.
We may cause
Yeah.
more confusion by changing. terms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
it's
Just-
used to.
At least it was nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I have a question about, under professional day, the 7:40 to 2:40, should that be 7:15 to 3:15? Because that's the contract day.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
that's what I was, that's why I stopped, it was in a way that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was 7:30 to 3:30 was the contract.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking there, 7:15.
But I think if you read the rest of that sentence, I'm wondering if that then really is accurate. It may be adjusted with the consensus of the principal, BLT and the lead NEA rep. You can't,
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's been like.
And I was like, why have we
Contract,
changed contract time?
is that
the
just
student
wondering.
contact day.
like the contents of the
So
student
it may be
contact?
the more direct have to be
That's true.
the student contact.
But that's not the special day. that
Maybe the
would be-
high school academic.
Student, each of our scheduling documents have that section in it
Mhm.
with. Well, it speaks to the state standardized assessments, like those are really special occasions, so.
Right, but the first one is,
But typically, when we adjust the attendance day, like when students attend, we don't have to go.
right,
We don't adjust the contract.
That.
yeah, right.
So the contract day is where we probably have to get together with ARs and BLT. I think.
Which is what this is
Which is what
saying.
that
Now,
would say. Yeah. 7:15.
I don't remember a time we've ever done that.
Right. Yeah,
You think it's corrected?
Yeah, I think with,
Contract
because
day.
if we were going to adjust the contract day, that would behoove obviously the conversation with PLTARs and those people, versus the student contact day, like if you shorten the day for assessments or something like that, you would probably need to go through that process, because we're not altering the contract day, which is obviously.
Well, it does say actually though, on the next, that language we've had on the bell schedule forever, that's very, language I think is pretty parallel to it. Individual building changes can be approved through the bell schedule by consensus of
Yes.
administration PLTAR.
And that's, yeah, that's speaking to the bell schedule on the next page, so we don't let this speak to the actual contract day. You're right, because on the next page, it gives a mode to address the student contact day, and this would give a way to address the contract day if needed.
I'll update that.
And then yeah, I went back and double checked the red line against that schedule we handed out last time.
Okay.
Matches.
Okay.
You can't do that. Even in red light.
I was impressed with the single number red lines.
What's the best way to do this? It was a little chaotic the way I approached it.
The only benefits is next, and the only update is we do have a meeting set. May 9th, get another, a couple agenda items, and we will hear from Watson and usage and all the things. Minor update from extracurricular academic support salary schedule committee. Today, we were able to send out a ranking tool. I've gotten a couple questions about it, about a proposal we may have left off. So I haven't had a chance to get back to Eric about that. So once we get that ranked, we should be able to have a proposal to bring to professional council at a future meeting. The next item on the agenda is from the elementary plan time committee. Todd and Shelby and I were charged to take a look at that elementary scheduling document and look at areas that would be impacted, moving forward with a proposal from the committee. And I am going to say this is the only red line document I was successful on today, and the others I'll share my failures in just a little bit. But, so in the first paragraph, and you'll see this through the entire document, we talked about anywhere where it said teachers, we would like to use the word educator. I think we've been using that in the language in our document and other places. Under professional day, so bear with me and I'll try to talk through this. We had worked on this, and then on the drive-in yesterday, I realized that we have, and I knew this, but realized that we need to address our early childhood buildings that are on different contract types. So got a little messy in here. So what I've added is under the professional day that if the program is located in a traditional elementary building, so that covers all of our ECAS programs that are in those buildings as well as elementary buildings, that professional day is 8:15 to 4:15, with each day being assigned a letter A through D. During an A through D rotation, an educator should normally have a minimum of 240 minutes for individual planning, parentheses, 300 minutes for 5 student contact day week. And Todd and Shelby and I kind of bantered around about this. We know that we want to be clear about for people reading this not to think, gosh, we thought we agreed to 300 minutes, but now I see 240 minutes, but proportionately 240 minutes over A through D would equal 300 minutes over 5 days.
Yeah.
That's a little math.
Yeah.
So, and we may have suggestions from the group to kind of figure out a cleaner way to say that. The next section about half-day schedules, you know that some of our buildings have struggled to be able to provide 30 minutes of plan time on those half days. And buildings have been very creative in how that they've been able to do that. And Angie, this might be where we need equal instead of equitable, but the vision with that language is that during a half day, a building would be able to carve out equitable plan time for all their staff in that building. So I know at Clearwater Creek, it may look like 20 minutes. And at Westview, it may look like 23 minutes. I'm just making that up. So is that equal and not equitable? Or do you want to think on that?
Yeah.
Because it's dependent upon
Dependent,
the
yeah.
size of the building.
Yeah.
Specials.
Equitable, maybe we emphasize that point a little bit more, but it will, I'm sure, be a question.
Then I added a section about early childhood educators. So their professional day for Harmony is outlined as 8:15 to 4:15, Heartland 7:40. Oh, that's wrong. It's not 4:15. That would be a really long day for them. 3:40, so I'll get that fixed. Because it mirrors the middle school day. They have PLC on Fridays, A through, and this is language that I lifted from other parts and just plopped in here. The rotation schedule is not used for early childhood. 300 minutes of plan time is scheduled over a typical 5-day student contact week for early childhood educators, knowing that the chunk of that happens on Fridays when students are not in it. Shelby, let me keep going.
Yeah, keep going. I'm thinking more about the equitable amount of plan time.
Okay.
I'm wondering, maybe one of the things we could look at is, so the earliest dismissal time we have is 11, on our new schedule. Sure, we'll say that hypothetically. 11:40. We could take a look at kind of our largest buildings, Manchester and Clearwater, see what they could possibly do, and then that could be our exact our benchmark. Yeah, let's do that. I'm just thinking out loud. Yeah, give an actual amount. Yeah, exactly. Something like at least maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes. Maybe that's the magic number or something like that. At least 20 minutes. But work on that.
Yeah, I see an extra teachers. Or early childhood teachers, educators. That fourth down there on the walk you got on the childhood.
Oh, yep, thank you. Oh. They're teachers, educators. Okay, under the section 2, then under professional day, A through D rotation schedule, we've added the word specials, elementary specials schedules utilize a 4-day rotation. Again, changing 5-day to 4-day. On the next page, CLA is struck from classes on the schedule. SIP meetings are struck from an A through E rotation. And the language that said A through E rotation does not apply to early childhood has been moved up into the early childhood section. under plan time, then again, it's a little messy because we have two different contract times to think about. So we revised the language to say all elementary educators assigned to teach full-time in an elementary program will normally have 240 minutes of plan time per A through D rotation, or 300 minutes per 5-day student contact week. For educators housed in a traditional elementary building and Harmony Early Childhood Center, 8:15 and 8:45, 8:15 to 8:45 may be scheduled one time per 5-day student contact week as planned for PLC.
I think you're missing the limit from like, it's not counted as timing to get people to pull that
It
there.
does. The 3:55 to 4:15 may not be counted as plan time.
3:55 to 4:15.
Okay. At Heartland Early Childhood Center, kind of parallel the same amount of time, 7:40 to 8:10, maybe scheduled one time per 5-day student contact week as planned, or PLC, 3:20 to 3:40 is not counted as plan time. That's right. So that's just our first attempt at illustrating that we need to take those different contract times into consideration.
And I have a question about something else on this. You want me to wait till the end?
No, go ahead.
In looking at the bottom of that page above the chart, the language about if the program assembly or party occurs during a classroom teacher's plan time, two things may occur. I understand why number one is there, request that specialist teachers supervise students during plan time, because in the previous world, some specialist teachers had an excess time. Is that going to be the case in the future?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that if, let's say there was an assembly during my PE class, the PE teacher could sit with the students and supervise them during that assembly. I could go ahead and do that.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
I was just making sure that that wasn't there due to the excess time that doesn't exist for most specialist teachers.
No, no.
Okay.
No, it's only used in the case of like, if the teacher is scheduled to get planned from 1 to 2, if there is an event or something.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Updated the chart by removing CLA.
You change it to A through D on that one.
Oh, yeah. I did also see in that section that Angie was asking about the word teacher, so I'll go back and look at, we can get those updated educator as well.
Control.
None. Okay,
We had talked about that chart.
I know,
Too, yeah.
I'm wondering if,
we had different versions.
we were looking at doing, like right now it says 30 minutes twice through A through E.
Which is not,
And were we gonna say, what were we gonna do, 60 minutes? for A through
it has
D?
to be 60 minutes, but it's up to the school's discretion for like,
30 minutes.
Right.
it's like, how deep do y'all want to get into this? Like at Countryside, I see 1 through 5, grades 1 through 5 for an hour, 60 minutes once a week. Kindergarten, 30 minutes twice a week. Some schools are doing that.
That's right, some are, some
Yeah.
aren't.
We did change that chart in one of the versions.
Yeah.
And the next line references counselor time underneath that, chart. Is that still?
Guidance instruction.
That's still applicable.
not
Counselor is
included.
not part of a specialist rotation.
Gotcha.
A through D, it's a every 2-week rotation that they do separately. Yeah, this one was a bear, guys. This one was a very big one.
So we appreciate you also helping us with
Yep.
this. Let's see, under recess supervision, a change from teacher to educator 2 times. We are suggesting that the language, I'm sure it's in there for a reason, that says class size and number of grade level sections vary from school to school, making rigid guidelines for supervision ratios difficult. But then right after that, there are recommendations for guidelines for. So. Seems additional.
Yeah.
Next page under agreement to supervise the lunchroom, we ran into the same wage back. Changed it to the online payroll system, but what I'm hearing is maybe we just need to say payroll system. Consistency. Under traveling elementary staff, the courses have been capitalized. Again, kind of reiterating if they have more than 300 minutes of plan time over a typical 5-day student contact week, they may be asked to be part of this language. Changed educator again a couple times. And then under specialists in schools outside of planned PLC time, duty-free lunch, again, 300 minutes over a typical 5-day student contact week. The bullet that you see in blue was way down at the bottom of the list, and I think based on feedback from our specialists, probably, although this list is not a ranking of any type, I would agree that it probably needs to be the first thing considered as they're looking at how any additional time might be utilized in the building. And then we'd like to strike the work with staff to fully integrate technology usage. On the bottom of the list, not really happening. I knew you would have predicted that this also impacted other language, but it did. This is where I could not get a red line document to print with red lines. I don't know.
Helpful.
Yeah, it was a good time. So this is the professional day board policy GBZCC. If you flip to the back under elementary.
Poor thing, you had
I just went old school. Yeah. I updated it with the same language about plan time that you saw in the scheduling document. Oh, there's one.
not catching the ride.
The next change is in policy GBZEA, which is our professional development policy. And the change is under PLCs. Elementary educators have a 30-minute slot assigned per day of the week, not A through E rotation. We did have a question that came up in our committee work about the impact of changing how maybe sit meetings and PLCs are scheduled, if they are scheduled by day of the week and not by the rotation schedule. And Todd did some high level math.
The highest level math I've ever done.
Yes.
Counted.
I-
The ABCDE calendar, how many days there were.
Right.
And then just counted how many days of the week there would be. So for instance, if you had your meetings on a Wednesday, how did that compare to how many B days we had? This compare. And it was about the same.
All of that.
Now don't look at Fridays or Mondays. So
We did.
true, that's very
Look at-
different. But
We would
Tuesday,
need to
Wednesday,
have
Thursday.
sit days on probably Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Preferably Wednesdays and Thursdays, but we also know that that schedule is largely dependent on the school psychologist's schedule, how many programs they have. But ideally, Wednesdays and Thursdays, I think, the best days for meetings have the most consistently. Tuesdays, I think, the trouble with that is that that's going to be our administrative staff meetings.
You should have requested to have those on Fridays.
Is it too late?
On that page, this is high school, but I'm noticing, I didn't notice the PLC on this page. It says 40 minutes. I think, if I'm thinking right, it's actually gonna be 35 next year. 7:15. School will start at 7:55 on Thursdays,
Yes.
so it'll be
Yeah.
35 minutes.
Yeah.
What about middle? It doesn't.
Varies depending on your position, really.
True.
Yeah.
What's that?
Forgot middle school.
We need to add early childhood. Here, I know you added it in the other document, but they're left off. Maybe not.
Or PLC.
Yes, that's sorry, I didn't clarify.
They do, it is mentioned in the elementary scheduling document that they're assigned a PLC on Fridays. So we could just put the same,
The amount is the same, right? 30
Yeah.
minutes once a week.
I had a question come up about traveling elementary specialists. So I reached out to Kathy, Donovan, and Joe Smith, but that was just late this afternoon. So obviously I have no idea what the answer is, but I know that previously, when we partnered up our large schools and our smaller schools to figure out who is traveling to support whom, that was done over an A through E rotation, and that's how the sections were counted. Are we counting sections now on an A through D rotation? Because in essence, they're picking up those fifth day classes and they're being embedded in over those 4 days. So I don't know, and I don't know if that will impact the number of schools that need support. More math.
Number of sections has typically just been how many sections you have. Like how many you're first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade.
Right.
total. And then with special consideration of maybe certain specialized programs, special
Yeah.
education programs as well, counting as 5. So is your question that with the A through D rotation, knowing that there would be 11 additional classes throughout the course of the year, how would that potentially impact?
Per week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, right. How would that potentially impact the number?
20 sections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tell you what you need to get right elementary building, and all those would probably need to be visited.
Well, I think-
Divided by 4.
I think Dr. Harrison and Dr. Smith have already done all of that. This is dangerous, I'm going off memory. I feel like it was when they got to 21
Well, that's,
sections.
I think so, but was that over like the old model of the A through E? Or now we're looking at they're teaching, I guess, I don't know how to explain this.
Well, there's
60
also
minutes every
our-
4 days is more than 60 minutes every 5 days.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right, so just making sure that
Right.
that denominator is.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Increase of 20%. So we can check this.
okay.
That was a lot. Guys,
Yeah, very good.
I think we had some fun Zoom, series of fun. Oh gosh. We'll leave more policy language to look at the next item. Michelle, you want to take part of this, then hand it off.
And yeah, so we took a look at paid time off. There we go. I'll see if my teams will work now, Liam.
Yeah, if not, I can try to pull it up.
What we might want to start.
And I can have the draft consensus ready, because we will look at that final.
My teams is still not running.
Put all the track.
I'm projecting. Losing. Intermediate reading.
Let's do that again now.
This is when it won't let you stop. All right, I'm restarting. Let's play a game. Let's play a game.
All right.
How many policies do you think had to be adjusted based on the leave policy changing? Oh, that's right, you're out. You're out.
Is it in one of the folders?
Yeah, and then the shared folder, right?
It's in our teams. Well, we could do the draft consensus if you can get that one pulled up, and I'll work on getting the teams for that. Under PTO.
PTO. 4:30.
Yes.
Now the teams.
You want me to draft, correct?
That'd be great, thank you.
We'll-
If
we'll
you
see.
can.
We'll see if it likes me still.
No change.
That's not a good sign.
Make sure I restart.
You got yours up okay?
Want me to try again or?
Sure. Somebody wants to connect to the podium too, if you're into.
So I can send it to everybody.
Oh, cool, thank you.
Yeah, it's like a whole folder with all the additional.
It's not asking for the pin, so I think it's done. Here, I can do that since you're.
So this is the word policy language that we had worked on previously and made the updates to reflect the PTO changes. And that, Leanne, you'll have to like jog my memory. I think the only change that we made on this was the addition of the workers' compensation leave. It wasn't on the last draft. And then we just cleaned up the numberings. And one of the numberings I do want to just talk about really quick was, you can see up above there, we did PTO. And then on the previous version, we had the next section as prolonged absences, end of the year and end of employment. But as Leanne and I were kind of sifting through this, we felt like that really wasn't a separate section because that all refers back to PTO and what happens to PTO at the end of the year. So then we just adjusted the section numberings. So then the next section is about the accumulated illness bereavement leave. And then you can see it trickle down from there. We thought it made the most sense to put workers' comp just right above the other acute absence. I don't think we made any changes. This is all the same as what we had talked about last time, and that was just getting that uniformity and using accumulated leave. And, the blackout day, there weren't any changes to any of this. We haven't made any changes to these either. This was that section regarding what happens at the end of the year, at the end of employment. And then as we talked about last time, we had added this whole section here, I think it's number 2 actually, for free. The accumulated illness bereavement leave, because we did not have that included before, so we wanted to be sure that the definition and all of that was still included. And then no changes under FMLA. And then under childbirth and adoption leave, just again referencing the accumulated illness bereavement leave. That can be used for those purposes. If we had any changes on non-FMLA. Prolonged absences, not made any changes here either. And then there's the workers' compensation piece that we added, referring people to that board policy. And then we did keep that highlighted section that just had noted that we were going to revisit this next year. And then we took out those references, those were reminders that I needed. So that was all we changed since our last conversation on the leave policy. So as we were sifting through to look at other places that this language would need to be updated, there were a number of those.
Who guessed 8?
So the first one is Appendix A or page 63. And this is where we took out, there was in that table in the bottom, there was a reference to coverage for CLA. And so in the updated version, we struck out that row. Leanne struck out that row. She did not take out the row. I think that was the only change on this appendix. Is that right, Leanne?
Yeah.
And then page 91, which is appendix B. I think this was down in the language below this table, if I'm remembering correctly, where it talks about attendance for professional learning days. Paid time off is available for use on scheduled professional development days at a 2-for-1 deduction. And then on the salary schedule, again, there was some language down below in the descriptors when it talks about retirement benefits. And so again, we just were updating that to
I'm
reflect.
still using that, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. To reflect that it's going to be the accumulated illness bereavement leave. Again, just keeping consistency with our language there. And then we also did something with the leave policies, correct, Leanne? So we were going to update this as well so that it would say leave policies. The district offers a generous leave policy, including paid time off, illness bereavement days, not charged to leave balance, birth adoption of a grandchild leave, and then take out the personal business leave. And this again was more of that cleaning up and getting the consistency using accumulated illness bereavement. That really was throughout that policy. And this is lead bank. So we spent a little bit of time on this. Much of this is, again, just getting consistency in the language that we're using, but then we also, so if you look under joining the lead bank, we kept all of the parameters that employees they have to donate a day in order to be eligible to draw from the day. And then that date can be donated after 1 year of employment. And that day that's donated is a PTO day. And then as we scrolled down and got into the types of circumstances for the need to draw from the lead bank, this is under extraordinary circumstances. And so that number 2 there, prior to applying for additional days from the lead bank, individuals will have used or project to use all of their paid time off leave and illness bereavement leave. That really matches what we do currently as well. And then this number 3, we did a little bit of work on, and Dr. Donovan came and helped us as well, because we were having difficulty understanding the language as it was worded before. And it sounds like this language maybe got updated at some point, and there's been kind of a continual confusion about what it really meant. So through our conversation and looking at how the lead bank has been working, we updated the language to state that the amount of time granted. So again, this is in reference to when somebody has an extraordinary health or medical need. The lead bank committee may grant days to an employee in excess of, they may not grant, days to an employee in excess of their total number of contracted days per year, period. The lead bank committee may not grant days to an employee beyond the current contract period. And then there's no minimum days of consecutive absence are necessary. So the practice of the lead bank committee has been that they have, if somebody has an extraordinary health or medical need, that we don't provide more days than a person has in their actual contract. And we also don't provide days leaping from one contract to another. So if somebody came forward with a lead bank request right now for the remainder of this year, and then they said, I want to go ahead and request 40 days for next year, we make them reapply at the time of that new contract. So the language before said that the lead bank may not grant days to an employee in excess of the total illness bereavement days allowed by policy for the employee. And we couldn't quite figure out what policy that was referring to. And so in having further conversation with Dr. Donovan, who's been working with the lead bank for some time, is when she shared that this has been a point of confusion for a while. So. Yeah, and then again, just again, noting that you have to use your PTO and your illness bereavement leave before you start tapping into the sick leave bank. And then the next one is professional development. That policy also needed a little bit of updating as well. This one was pretty minor though. Oh, this was in regard to the A through B, yes.
Wage back. And payroll. And then there's a document at the front of the agreement that's not really policy, but it's more kind of a nice checklist of dates, if you will. We've had a date where if you were going to roll over personal business days to convert to illness bereavement, you had to meet that by a certain date. The date now is really applying for a deadline to request exchanging 3 days of PTO for that 75% of the daily salary. The change.
That sparked another question for me. It's clear back in the document I was doing.
Yes.
I had up the GBZ CDA on page
GBZ, is it one of these? That you-
Those leaves policy.
yeah, the leaves policy, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me see here. Page
Was it in
2.
there?
No, not page 2. Hold on. I just had it. It's the one, the returning employees.
Yeah, it's the second page of that document.
Second page.
Oh,
Didn't talk about that one today. Yeah, I mean, just the question with B is, it says returning employees can do these things.
mhm.
And I get the question that we had was, wouldn't we want all of our employees to be able to exchange for the daily substitute rate to encourage them to be in the classroom, regardless of if they're resigning or retiring?
Yeah.
I think we don't have that requirement currently on the payout of unused personal days, right?
So that would
You
be
can be
it.
eligible for that even in your last year with the district.
Well, that hasn't been the practice. No, and Leah and I were discussing this today, and I was sharing with her that was part of why I had put that in there, because it's not in our current policy, and it's created a little bit of confusion, because that's not been our practice. If somebody's departing from the district, they haven't been eligible to turn in and have those days compensated for. But, you know, I'm wondering, knowing the change we've made in terms of what that buyback is, I don't know why we wouldn't honor it for everybody. So, and when I was writing this, I was struggling because it seemed a little odd to say returning employees, but then letter C talks about the person who's retiring. So they're
Okay.
obviously not a returning employee, so it probably would make more sense for us to just say,
Returning employees may do these.
yeah,
All employees.
just
may do these.
employees with paid time off remaining at the end of each contract year may.
I guess my follow-up to the follow-up is, do we need to look at the deadlines then to make sure that it does apply to a retiring employee? We aren't messing them up in terms of papers by letting them request a payment on June 30, that may take a little longer, right?
Well, I think this though would apply for them, which is the letter C and not letter A.
But couldn't they have an excess?
Well, only if they've gotten to 425 days that they've got stacked up. You know what I mean?
Unlikely, but possible.
Right, right.
You have
Yes.
to notify papers of retirement.
I think you should know this. You can do that one right back to me, you know, in the near future.
But I'm also thinking through. So it really would just be in the situation where the person has more than the 425 day maximum. And they're wanting to be paid for not using 3 of their days.
Or somebody resigning.
Sure.
We want them
Yeah,
to
that's
be in the
They don't
classroom.
have the papers question, though. That's the-
Right. If
Oh, I
June-
see, I
If
see, I
June
see.
30 is
I
too
got you.
far out.
Yep.
And the hard part with that is like, you know, Lee and I were also discussing, school has to be out in order to know how many days somebody actually
Yeah.
has it used. Why don't I do some checking on the capers thing?
I don't believe.
We don't
When
wanna
I when I say all, I mean
We don't
all
want to
eight.
say it out loud. I find 5 others.
We appreciate you watching this edited version of negotiations between Olathe Public Schools and Olathe NEA. Did you know that Olathe NEA members and other KNEA members average nearly 20% more in salary throughout their career than other educators that do not belong to a district that has negotiations with a KNEA affiliate? Did you know that you could also join Olathe NEA now and not pay membership dues until September 2024? We hope that you will go to knea.org/join and become part of our Education for All movement.
Yeah.
I have a PowerPoint. I also have some an illustration of midway through. I may lose you in a couple of bullets. And I don't mind being stopped. I might want to go through one time if possible, because it doesn't necessarily flow. You might go, what about that one thing? It might go on the next slide. So I'll kind of pause roughly in the middle and see if you got questions about it. But basically, as we understand from the notice letters, there were several things that we all proposed. Obviously, increase in beginning salaries, allowance for a minimum of 1-step movement, Howell movement for educators that are eligible, and then to enhance those bachelor lanes at 0.006, like we do kind of later in the schedule for other lanes. We also request examine and revise the supplemental pay, taking into consideration the recommendations, which I guess are still forthcoming, and then establish a District 403B match to enhance the retention and recruitment of our staff. Just kind of a caveat is there isn't anything that you propose that we don't disagree with. That in principle we agree to all of it, but there's kind of two other things that we always have to consider. Always never fun. One of them is we have to make sure that it's short-term and long-term financially sustainable. And then the second thing that we can't lose sight of is there's another 50% of our workforce that we also have to do something for. So it's not that pitting any work class against the other. It's just a reality that there's another 2,500 individuals that we have to figure out what we're going to do compensation wise for that as well. I was able, back on April 11th, these were the kind of projections of where I thought we would land financially for new money for next year. As of today, even though it's very fluid, there are a few adjustments. I think we're still on track to come in on budget. If not, we're a little over, but it's close enough to go. Total loss is still the same, 5.5. Other increases, that's kind of the non-compensation pieces. It actually decreased pretty good. I was down to about 1.2 until we had a visit from DS Bus, and their contract may go up over $1 million. And it's because about every 3 years, bus companies have to negotiate with Teamsters or whoever the union is for the drivers, and they are settling in the way transportation contracts are. That's a variable piece. Even though we're going to be more efficient with 3-tier, it may still go up, and we may be able to massage that a little bit. But I was hoping it would come down even more. Base funding is higher than anticipated. That has not been locked in by the state, but we believe it's gonna be $53.75 a student. And that would equate to, instead of 9.1, about 12.5 million. The COLA thing stays the same. Then our understanding is, I'm gonna lose a little bit because I haven't been in touch with KSDE on exactly what changed. I believe somehow in determining how much the distribution of the additional sped money, they've now included what we get in the way of Medicaid. And so it changed the allocations. It brought ours down to $5.7 million, but with LOB on top of it, it becomes 7.5. That is kind of, I don't want to say it's under the table. We just got to Frank at 7 a.m. this morning and said, what is in that spreadsheet that's going to start coming forward because we're meeting with ONEA. So I believe we'll have about 15.5. It's a little better than the 14.3, I guess, best case scenario that we had back in April 11th. That felt like 3 months ago. I started searching through the minutes and I couldn't find.
It does feel like a long
I don't know if you heard my story. I started in Washington DC at 3:30 this morning and I got here half hour before the meeting. And I couldn't get access to T drives and S drives, so I was like looking for emails of draft minutes trying to find my own presentation. And I had access to it. One of our bar grades focuses as a district is starting teacher salary. We obviously we want to pump as much as we can into the salary schedule for retention, but the obvious fact is we are the lowest in the Johnson County districts, and unfortunately, they're going to have some of these same, lack of a better word, windfalls, and they're going to be close to probably $50,000 before Blue Valley and Shawnee Mission will be released before it's all said and done. So we're losing ground on them quickly on starting teacher salary. So our salary, our proposal revolves around mainly the salary schedule, and that is to establish a starting teacher salary at $48,172. That's $2,172 higher than it currently is. And we're going to accomplish that by providing 3 levels of movement. Notice I started using the word levels that we kind of got away from last year. Not hung up on it, but we kind of use there's levels and steps, and we're trying to be very clear that it's not that steps aren't years of service anymore. You can take it or leave it. I label everything a level just to help with that narrative. So, for example, you're MS 12 level 1, you're going to end up being MS level 4. Where I might lose you a little bit, so I had some illustrations. And I'll send this to the whole group. It's easy for me getting into the T drive. I've got an email all mocked up. And Eric, I've got some financial kind of stuff. I don't know if you want to sit and I can explain what each tab is, but it'll help you with the numbers. But then once that movement occurs, we eliminate levels 1 through 3 and add 3 additional levels at the end. That's what I'm going to illustrate in a second. And you just renumber them all 1 through 38. So we still have our 1 through 38. Why do that? It becomes very economically unfeasible to pump enough money in that starting teacher salary to get near Blue Valley and Shawnee Mission. It was kind of the desire last year to try to raise that even more. We weren't able to do that. So it's trying to hit the reset button and get in the pack at least before, by then, once we're in the neighborhood, we should be able to just keep adding to the starting cell and let it flow through. We place all new hires on that level, that new level 1, but we also have all current staff with 1 year of experience. Much like we have other areas where they have multiple years, there's no way around stacking up the first group, the first 2 years that I could determine. We replace all new hires with experiences we've already previously agreed the average years of service, the bands that we came up with and agreed to together. And we totally agree that we would take those bachelor's columns and add the 0.006 index all the way down. So not that you couldn't follow that, but sometimes pictures help. And I did a couple boards, leftover boards, so didn't spend any money.
Neutral.
It's cool.
That's real easy. That's the existing salary schedule.
Oh.
38, right? And it goes to 92,058, starting at 46,000. Then you add on what you would propose, the bachelor's. Each one of these just goes ahead, multiplies by that 0.006, just and comes down and fills out the schedule. Then the next piece is what I'm talking about, the elimination and adding. After everybody moves down for number 4 is the first level. The red would get eliminated, the green gets added at 0.06. You still kind of have you still basically have doubling, you're ending before adding on, you're still at the 92,000. And then in the end, you just have a clean salary schedule that's renumbered. It's just, it's 4 through, what would that be, 41 becomes 1 through 38. That's the new schedule. Eric, I'll be real transparent. Bachelor 6, let's see, BS 12, BS 24, and all other, they move up 3. That 0.06 happens a little earlier, but the compensation is growing kind of faster if you look at lifetime earnings, but you'll see it in the spreadsheet when you take a look. So I wanted to point that out. That's what I'm talking about with those points. So monetarily, what that comes up to at this point, oh, sorry. Obviously, we also agree we need to do the column movement for anybody that's eligible. We would increase, if we move that starting teacher salary to 48,172, that would become a new driver once again for the extracurriculars. And while we don't believe it's going to be astronomical, there is going to be an increase in healthcare costs. So we propose again for the 6-year in a row that we just keep it flat. Staff would not pay any more contribution. The biggest thing we're facing right now, we know we'll have stop loss coverage increases and some plan costs, admin costs, those types of things. Financially, this is what I calculate in Eric, this is kind of a spreadsheet piece I can give you. I believe the level movement you'll see is $8.3 million. It's about 4.6%. And if you take what's the salary schedule cost us right now, and with those moves, what's it going to cost? It's 8.4 million more at 4.6. How movement's running about 850,000. I don't know if it's an anomaly or it's that low. So if you put on top of that, all these have FICA. So that's about 955,000. I hope it stays that low, but we'll probably need a couple of years just to see, is that really what's happening? If you include that, that's a 5.1. If you adjust the extracurricular schedule to a new starting salary of 48,172, I think it costs about 212,686 with FICA. We don't know about the additions. I probably should highlight that one. That's one we still, I know, need to talk about. We can't quantify PTO. We just know we believe, I don't know, I believe we'll face an increased cost because of conversion. I don't think it's going to go one for one with the, we didn't have sub cost. Therefore, I think some people, now anybody can basically cash that in. I think there's some cost behind that. I can't measure it. And the health insurance, I don't know exactly what that's going to be done. If we did a comparable amount for non-bargaining unit compensation, one was about 4.2, and then there's that 2.5. That is inflation for all the other items like utilities, pencils, paper, and the big floating thing in there is our bus contract. So that comes to about 16.2. And I know it's not all O&EA costs, it's just, it triggers a cost of about 16.2 versus the 15.5 worth of new revenue. So we're in the ballpark, so we're comfortable with the offer. That's about 5.1%. Inflation for the end of March for 12 months was 3.5%. So we're well above inflation. It'll be a little more than 5.1, but once again, it's those immeasurables that would push it up, and I can't quote anything of exactly what it would be. So kind of recapping back to things that you had proposed, increasing beginning salaries, minimum one step, or excuse me, beginning salaries. We've accomplished that with 48,172. Column movement, we agree with the column movement. Minimum of one step, we've got it to 3. Enhancing the salary schedule for the bachelors. That's reflected in that new salary schedule. Examine and revise the supplemental pay. We've revised it thus far just for the new base, and then we have to talk about what the committee's bringing forward in the way additions. The only thing we did not include in the proposal is the 403B. We just focused, because we got to get that teacher salary up, we wanted to put everything we could in there, and thought it was a three level movement helps a lot for somebody to maybe put a little aside and on their lifetime earnings to get the quicker. We'd be open if you want to carve something out and say, well, let's not go as far and put that money in the 403B. We can still talk about that. As far as we wanted to insert all the dollars we got available strictly to the schedule as much as possible. And once again, hold the health insurance premium the same for employees. And that was it. And I have to go back to anything. Basically a 3-level movement. I know you'll have to get your head around a little bit what's the impact. The biggest impact, I believe, is those 0.006 is where they fall in the schedule.
Can you go back and talk about the part about placement of new hires and
Sure.
year ones?
Sure. If we have, let me do the more of that. It's a little easier to understand. If this becomes the new 1, we've actually moved 1 there. 1, 2, 3. I'm going into my 2nd year. Plus, I hired somebody from K-State. They're both going to land on this step. So you're going to have, while that 2nd year person got a raise, they're going to be paid the same as the person we bring in with no experience. Which there are similarities throughout here based on people have, and especially when we put up, everybody came to the top of the new schedule. Not something that we want to do every year, but it was just because we couldn't get that teacher salary high enough last year, just because we didn't have enough funding to do that. It was an attempt to hit that reset button on that one.
I apologize, I have to go to an Avid Senior Awards thing,
Oh,
so,
sure.
but I'd be curious of what the district investment would be if classified staff started at 20, just to kind of see what that investment would be. I know you had comparable, the $4 million of comparable raises, but I don't know if that would be considered comparable.
Yeah, that's floating around somewhere.
Yeah, the classified staff. So,
Started at $20 an hour.
yes,
Oh.
yeah.
I know somewhere in that. I was just gonna say 6, so I think it was.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me sit, I'll sit, I'll do the talk phone right now, I gotta step up. I don't know, do you want 1 second at the computer? If I, should I show you what I got?
I just, real quick, idiot line.
Okay. We like this one.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Good choice.
Thompson as a.
Do we want to set another time?
I went to a meeting and I heard the passion in all of their voices, and I felt like I had found my people. They were talking about supporting their fellow teachers and how can we make school better. This work can't be done alone. We need each other.
This is the first time that I've ever actually had a job that had an association. I was like, all right, sign me up. I put myself up there and I got voted in. I like every minute of it so far. We had negotiations, which were really good negotiations. It means a great deal to me, you know, like being the voice of our drivers.
We are the union collectively. Our voice can make a difference, and that can impact our students and help with their success.
Well, thank you for giving us the elongated time to discuss. I think we really appreciate the presentation and the work. We're still trying to wrap our head around the model. So we do want to come back on the 6th and we can nail down any of the other language, and hopefully if we have any questions between now and then, can we go ahead and reach out with those? And then you ready for the 6th?
You gotta figure anything out on there.
Okay. Anything else from the group? Everybody get home safe.
Yeah.
So we're Monday next week?
Oh my gosh.
Monday, yes.
Monday, May 6th. Yep.
And here.
Yeah,
In
here.
here.
Yep.
In here, not there.
Okay.